Welcome to 5 things that all Ezreal mains need to know. Ezreal is one of my favorite AD carries because of his ability to play in almost any team composition and against any team composition. He's been a top tier AD carry for a long time, but you probably already know that. We'll start off with some more basic tips and then get slightly more complex later on. I don't want to waste your time, so let's get right into it. The first tip I'm going to give you is probably the most obvious one, and I hear it all the time, but I still fail to see Ezreal players in lower tiers doing it. You need to weave auto attacks in between your abilities. The difference it can make on the damage charts is absolutely ridiculous. So let's take a look at the comparison of the damage difference you can put down in just a 5-second span. First, we're going to be seeing how much damage we can do in 5 seconds while weaving auto attacks in between our abilities using only our W and our Q. That's 5,593 damage. Next, we're going to try it without auto attacks and use only our W and Q. It's 3,651. That's almost a 2,000 damage difference in just 5 seconds. Now imagine the difference you can do in an entire prolonged team fight or over the period of a game by simply right-clicking in between abilities. Remember, after all, you are an AD carry. You can't forget to right-click. The second tip is saving your arcane shift for crowd control abilities. Way too often do I see Ezreal players, even in high elo games, using their E to poke or to position for poke. They hit a W, and then they miss their Q, so they try to proc the W with their E and become vulnerable. What happens next? The enemy Thresh or Leona flashes in and you're caught out. Ezreal scales nicely, so there's really no need to make hyper-aggressive plays that can put you at risk. Ezreal's E is what makes him so great in laning phase. Practice using it to cancel things like Blitzcrank Hook and you're thriving. It's very crucial to be smart with your E. You could even block things like a Blitzcrank Hook from hitting your support with it. The ability is way too strong for you to use it just to get a little bit of damage off. Any decent support will abuse your E cooldown if you're going to be reckless with it. The third tip we have is the Q flash. This one is extremely important and very useful in almost every game. If the enemies are trying to block you from hitting your Q, if minions are in front of your target, or if your target is going to be out of Q range after you channel your W and you want to hit your target with some nice burst, this tip will be useful. Let's take a look. So let's say you want to hit the target standing behind the one in front. This could be an enemy champion or some minions. It's a lot more difficult to flash and then aim your Q immediately after flashing, especially if your target is moving. So what we're going to do is press Q and then press flash immediately after. Another situation where you could use this is if your target is at max range, your arcane shift is down, and you want to make sure that after you use your W, your target will still be in range since they are running away from you. This tip will make sure you catch your target off guard with some nice burst. However, before you guys start pulling out some of these new moves in ranked, make sure to try these tips out in practice too, as the timing is actually a little bit more difficult at the start. You will need a tiny bit of practice. And with that being said, the next tip we have is the E-Flash. The E-Flash is used mostly for repositioning, chasing, or running away. Flash E is a lot more clunky and takes a half second longer, which in League of Legends can make a difference. The E-Flash will make it look like you just teleported across the screen in a split second. To do this technique, make sure to keep your cursor further away than you would with a regular arcane shift so that you don't flash in the spot. Let's take a look at the difference. So, to repeat it, this is the flash E, and then this is the E flash. Much better, right? Okay, so the final tip I have for you is going to be for your ultimate. I actually have a couple tips for this, but I'll be combining them into just one. The first trick I have is to assist you with hitting your ultimate, especially in laning phase when you have more access to bushes. Basically, you're going to want to use your ultimate from Fog of War. This makes it a lot more difficult to dodge, and it'll catch your enemies by surprise. This happens because the ultimate channel is very obvious, as you're about to see, and it gives the enemy a lot of time to react accordingly. This means you're going to want to hide behind walls, walk further away into Fog of War, walk into a bush, or honestly whatever you have to do to hide your ultimate channel. Another thing about your ultimate is that you want to use it right at the very beginning of every single team fight. Ezreal's ultimate, if it hits multiple people, will instantly stack Ezreal's passive. This will make you a lot stronger in team fights, as the passive gives you quite a bit of attack speed. If you hit 4 enemies at once, like this, that's going to be 4 stacks. For some reason, I never see Ezreal players do this, even in high elo, and I don't see this tip recommended a lot to a lot of new Ezreal players like it should be. So there you have it. That's 5 Ezreal tips that every Ezreal main needs to know. Remember to like the video and subscribe because it goes a long way. Let me know in the comments what champion you'd like to see next, and best of luck on the Rift.